In a realm bathed in golden light stands a magnificent palace, a picture of divine royalty. The ornate doors stand closed as a voice announces its presence. Here I am. Flash, a maid, a green-haired man with a snake tail, and two others fawn over their beloved princess, who they believe receives all the royal family's love. A smiling maid with reddish-brown hair, Uni Mariata, the jaguar beast woman, offers the princess a special bottle of milk. Next up, Javiet Scotton, a green anaconda beast man, grins as he temptingly offers a snake plushie. A kind-faced woman with braided brown hair, Sophie Langgrass, the black tiger beast man, tells the princess to choose whichever she desires. But the princess is an adorable, sweating white tiger cub who nervously declares her royal status. The four attendants gaze down with adoration at the tiny tiger cub, who can only look up at them from the floor. The little tiger understands their fuss, but inside she's panicking. It's way too much pressure. She is the long-awaited princess, destined to connect with the divine white tiger spirit and save the world from destruction. But as the fierce spirit of her ancestor looms over her, the tiny cub trembles, wondering, what if she can't? The story begins 1,000 years ago, when a great evil, the divine beast of darkness, shattered the harmony between beastmen and humans. The monstrous snake beast ravaged the world, and despite a united front of all races, their combined strength was not enough to stop the darkness. To prevent total destruction, a legendary protector emerged, a divine white tiger radiating brilliant blue power. The great white tiger, Anash, fought a fierce battle against the beast of darkness, ultimately sacrificing itself to destroy the evil. Anash's sacrifice ended the long war, but left the world scarred and smoldering. In the aftermath, humans grew distrustful of divine beasts and migrated west, rejecting their blessings to forge their own path. Thus, two great empires were born. Rilberk, a land of wizards ruled by the ominous Magic Tower, and Pentherin, an empire of fire and might, ruled by the Golden Tiger Beastmen. Blessed by the golden divine beast Ganesh, the Pentherin royal family ushered in an age of unprecedented prosperity through their strength and wisdom. However, even this mighty empire faced a single, terrifying problem that threatened its very existence. A dire oracle was delivered from the temple. If a white tiger isn't born into the royal family, all will perish. The prophecy foretold the return of the ancient war, and only the power of the white tiger could prepare them for the coming storm. A nobleman scoffs at the idea, declaring it impossible for a white tiger to appear, since a beast man needs a divine beast's blessing to mature. He argues to a council of nobles that with the divine beast Anash gone, the chances of a white tiger's birth are practically zero. But the 13th emperor of Pentherin, a stern and regal man, silences the dissent, stating they must simply wait and see. For hundreds of years, hope dwindled as the white tiger bloodline failed to manifest, with the few who were born dying within a year. But then, a miracle. Under the 35th emperor, a tiny, crowned white tiger cub was finally born. Held lovingly in her mother's arms, the cub reflects on the immense love and expectation she was born into. She spent her first days in peace, But that happiness was fleeting as she learned the heavy truth behind their affection. She overheard the whispers that she was Anasha's reincarnation, their savior, and suddenly their love felt like a heavy burden. The tiny cub desperately wanted to be the hero they needed, but could only despair at her own pitiful reality. Unlike others, she couldn't transform into a human, nor was she strong like Sophie or the golden tigers of her family. Worst of all, she couldn't use Anasha's special power, and she lived in fear that they would discover her secret and their love would vanish. The thought of losing their affection was an unbearable weight, threatening to crush her completely. With no solution in sight, a full year of silent suffering passed by. A new day dawns as a voice calls out to Her Highness from outside the palace. Sophie and Uni arrive with a mountain of gifts for the princess, eager to start opening them immediately. Guess it's influencer unboxing day at the palace. Dressed in a new bonnet, the tiger cub is showered with compliments, while she internally groans about the gift parade starting again. Overwhelmed, the cub silently begs to be left alone, knowing she can't get used to this conditional affection. While Uni gushes over her cuteness, Javiette asks her to pose again, but the little tiger can only hide her true feelings. More presents are unveiled as someone eagerly suggests she try on new outfits. Her attendants bicker over which outfit she should wear first, but the little cub just thinks, not another dress-up day. Fed up with their silliness, the little tiger walks away, feeling completely exhausted by their constant fussing. Staring at her reflection, she wishes she really was Anash reincarnated, with no memory of her past life or this crushing pressure. She closes her eyes, wishing that, forget reincarnation, she just had the power to stop living under this constant stress. Tap. With a tiny, determined paw, she makes a decision. A maid spots her suddenly running and cries out in alarm, warning her that it's dangerous. Kaya, the little cub, trips mid-stride, tumbling helplessly through the air. Landing with a thud, the dizzy tiger glares at the door, furious that someone dared to enter her chambers unannounced. As she wonders who has arrived, a booming voice announces the radiant son of the empire. It's none other than the 35th emperor, Retine Dester Pentherin, a formidable man with piercing golden eyes. The narration reveals he's the most powerful emperor, blessed by the divine beast Ganache, and ruthless enough to have defeated his own brother to take the throne. He's also her father, Jusella's. The emperor strides down the golden hall, his presence commanding as he approaches the tiny, bowing group. But the moment he sees his daughter, the stern emperor's face breaks into a warm, loving smile. The little tiger is horrified by his sudden change in demeanor, internally screaming at him to maintain some dignity. He gently scoops her up, completely smitten, as an onlooker thinks he's the biggest fool for his daughter. His reputation was built on his formidable skills, aggressive nature, and a strange obsession with anything he fancies. Blushing like a schoolboy, he asks his little Juicy if she missed her daddy. He pulls her into a crushing hug, gushing about how lovely she is, while she panics that she can't breathe. Dad, personal space! Despite being squished, she admits to herself that she doesn't entirely hate her father's over-the-top affection. She flashes back to a time she was sleeping anxiously, only to feel a gentle touch and hear a soft voice. Her father had watched over her, noting her resemblance to her late mother, Brianna, and she knew he held no resentment toward her. Unlike everyone else who piled expectations on her, her father's only wish was for her to be healthy. He was the only one who loved her for who she was, and that unconditional love meant everything to her. Back in the present, he nuzzles her again, asking if she played well while he was away, and she feels the familiar weight of his violent affection. Wanting to be put down, she takes matters into her own paws and gives his thumb a little bite. Oops. She immediately regrets it, realizing she bit him way too hard by accident. Her dad misinterprets the bite, asking if she was hungry, while she just wants some juice. Suddenly, his expression turns cold as he scolds his staff for failing to notice the princess was hungry. He furiously orders them to prepare a meal, terrifying the maids, while the cub panics that he's overreacting to a simple thumb bite. Cradling his baby, he tells her to wait just a little longer as he barks at the maids to hurry up with her meal. He returns to snuggling her, but the little cub is sweating, clearly overwhelmed by the chaos she accidentally caused. She feels terrible, knowing she can't explain the misunderstanding, since most people can't understand a beastman cub before their first humanization. A few days later, the scene shifts back to the peaceful palace. She's back to her favorite pastime, playing with her snake toy, so focused she doesn't even notice the days passing. The sound of steady footsteps signals an approaching visitor. Her dad appears in the doorway with a bright smile, asking his Juicy how she's been. Daddy's home. He asks if she missed him, but she senses something's a little different about his usual grand entrance. Her eyes go wide with shock as she spots something new on him. He beams with pride, happy that she noticed his new accessory right away. He shows off a high-quality white jade pendant on his sword, carved in her likeness. She's mortified he literally put her face on his sword. It's a declaration of public love. To make matters worse, he's even cast a protective spell on the pendant. This is peak embarrassing dad energy. Despite the cringe, it was a gift from her dad, so she dutifully walks over to him. A moment later, she's proudly wearing her new custom-made pendant. Her father is ecstatic, calling her a genius for understanding him, while his attendants quickly agree. Meow. The emperor sighs that he wishes he could stay longer, and she thinks, then just stay. But he says not today, handing her to an attendant as she lets out a confused purr. He sets her down and calls her name, Juicy, before turning to leave. Watching him walk away, she realizes he's going somewhere far this time. The thought of not seeing her daddy for a while makes her surprisingly sad. Not wanting him to worry, she gives his leg a happy little nuzzle goodbye. But when she opens her eyes, she's in a forest, staring at a pair of human hands and wondering where she is. The stunning realization hits her like a ton of flowers. She's finally humanized. Now a young girl with white hair and blue eyes, she stands in a sunlit glade, utterly bewildered. This has to be a dream, right? She pinches her cheek, and when it doesn't hurt, she concludes it's just a dream. Grrr! The strange sound fills the air, and a cold wind suddenly begins to blow. A swirl of icy energy and glowing tiger stripes surround her as she wonders what's happening. From the storm of snowflakes, a massive, majestic white tiger with piercing blue eyes emerges. Thump! She's stunned by its immense size and the powerful energy it radiates, questioning why a white tiger would appear in her dream. Back in her dream, the little white-haired girl finds herself in a snowy forest, confused and seeing nothing. She turns away for a second, only to realize the magnificent white tiger from her dream has completely vanished. A few days later, the little cub stares out the window, wondering why her dad's trip is taking so long. She can't stop thinking about that strange dream she had, pondering what it could possibly mean. She recalls seeing her human form and the majestic white tiger, realizing the dream felt strangely familiar and comforting. She wonders if being a white tiger herself is why she had the dream, but feels uneasy that it happened right after her dad left. It doesn't help that ever since he left, the number of guards around her palace has doubled. Something's up. Clink! She fiddles with the protective pendant he gave her, a new wave of worry washing over her. Her attendants notice her somber mood and ask if anything's wrong, but she can only think that there's just too much on her mind. Suddenly, her ears perk up at a sound from the hallway. She wonders what all the commotion is about, hoping it means His Majesty has finally returned. But there's a knot in her stomach as she approaches the door. A blush spreads across her face as she gets excited, thinking this kind of fuss only happens when her dad is about to visit. She can barely contain her excitement. Yep! In her excitement, she trips and tumbles right into one of her knights, who cries out in alarm. She picks herself up, thinking her dad is back early, but a sudden, dark energy makes her realize something is very wrong. An intense, fiery aura floods the room. This sharp, wild energy is nothing like her father's calm presence. Whoa! She turns around, startled, and comes face to face with the source of the overwhelming power. A menacing shadow falls over her as she trembles, thinking it might be another real white tiger. She is genuinely scared. But it's a blonde-haired boy with a sharp-toothed grin who mockingly says, "You're still alive? Impressive." This is Lumiere Penterin, the crown prince of the empire and her 12-year-old older brother. He's a prodigy who joined the battlefield at just 10, wielding incredible power and swordsmanship. Like all Penterin royals, he has a violent temper and was fiercely devoted to his late mother, the Empress. She now understands why Sophie always warned her to be careful around the crown prince. Confused and scared, she wonders why he's here when she thought he was still away at the front lines. Lumiere scoffs that she can't even take human form yet and looks weak. His killing intent so strong it's practically suffocating her. The pressure is so immense she can barely breathe, collapsing to the floor as she realizes her own brother must truly hate her. An attendant curtsies, formally greeting the crown prince of the Penterin Empire. After hearing praise for his recent victory, Lumiere coldly states that his mission made him miss his mother's death and his sister's birth. With a sinister smile, he declares he came to see for himself if she is truly the child of prophecy, launching a fiery attack on her terrified attendants. "No, Your Highness!" one of them screams as the prince's power explodes. With a determined look, Lumiere draws his sword, ready to strike. Sophie desperately yells for the princess to run as she rushes into the inferno. Overwhelmed by the blistering heat, the tiny cub fears this is how she's going to die. Through the flames, she sees a blurry figure as one of her attendants calls out to Her Highness. It's Sophie, standing protectively in front of her, with a pained smile, asking if she's all right. The cub looks around in horror, seeing not just Sophie, but Uni and her other attendants collapsing from their injuries. Even Xavier is down for the count. They all got hurt trying to protect her. Suddenly, an uncontrollable wave of icy power erupts from her, blasting everyone in the room. A ferocious roar escapes her as a torrent of blue energy swirls around her tiny body. Rah! A massive pillar of ice and light shoots upwards from the little tiger cub. As snowflakes fill the air, her attendants stare in disbelief, realizing the princess has just used her power. Sophie is stunned, recognizing it as a powerful ice-type ability, just as expected from the prophesied princess. The force of the ability is so strong that even her loyal attendants are struggling to withstand the freezing blast. Lumiere, however, stands completely unfazed, remarking that such power is fitting for a Pentherin royal. She lets out a defiant growl, trying to warn him to stay away, while a worried Sophie watches the untamed power rage. With a smirk, Lumiere strolls through the blizzard she created and asks, "What's wrong, my sibling?" He calmly walks through the ice and frost, completely immune to her power. He reveals he attacked her on purpose to awaken her ability, and with a smile, says he's done now and tells her to come to him. Her eyes widen as she processes his words, shocked that he'd stop his assault just like that. The little cub stares in utter disbelief, realizing her brother put everyone's lives at risk just to force her powers to awaken. She notes that his killing intent is gone, but she's still on high alert. As she cautiously approaches, Lumiere kneels down with a gentle smile. He reaches for her, thinking that he's known this was the case from the start. Patting her head, he compliments her beautiful eyes, but she silently screams for him to get his hands off her. He continues petting her, calling her a poor thing, much to her annoyance. She stops in her tracks, confused by his mention of her ability. With a radiant, blushing smile, Lumiere admits he likes his little sister because she's cute and talented. The cub panics, realizing he's grateful for her power awakening, but is ignoring the fact that Sophie nearly got hurt in the process. He asks if her worry was for nothing. He turns to a shocked Sophie and calls her Aunt Sophie, leaving the cub completely bewildered by the sudden family reveal. Her mind reels with the revelation. Sophie is her aunt? It all clicks into place. That's why she's her nanny. All the shocking revelations are starting to get to her, and the little cub feels herself getting dizzy. She promptly faints, and Sophie cries out in alarm, but Lumiere catches her, reassuring her that it's just exhaustion from using her powers. Holding his sleeping sister, Lumiere reflects that while he once resented her, he now sees her as a precious gift from their mother. He recalls sensing her untamed power when he arrived, and realizing he could be the one to awaken it. He admits his methods were harsh, and that he's likely earned her hatred now, looking down at her tiny form in his arms. A soft, blushing smile spreads across his face as he holds her, a hint of genuine affection finally showing through. The scene shifts to a dream, where her human self wanders a lush forest, wondering if she'll see the white tiger again. Holding a flower, she realizes the sacred energy from that dream felt a lot like her own newly awakened ability. She deduces that the white tiger must be a divine beast, just as she spots a cloaked figure in the distance. Seeing the cloaked person crying, she feels a sudden urge to comfort them and gets an idea. She approaches the figure, thinking how pretty they are, and the person looks up in surprise. With a bright, reassuring smile, she offers them the flower and says, "Cheer up." The hooded person accepts the flower, asking if it's for them, and she happily confirms. Suddenly, a terrifying wave of dark purple energy erupts from the person she just met. An incredibly menacing vibe fills the air as the energy intensifies around them. A dark-haired man suddenly appears and grabs her, yelling, "Tiger, danger!" as he shields her from the threat. A terrifying, slit-pupiled crimson eye stares out from the darkness, a clear sign of a powerful foe. From the shadows emerges a gigantic black serpent, its immense size shocking her to her core. The dark-haired boy stands protectively in front of her, but he's frozen, paralyzed by the serpent's overwhelming presence. She clenches her tiny fist, feeling a terrible sense that if they don't do something, everything will be destroyed. Mustering her courage, she resolves to fight, calling out to the brown-haired boy, "No, white tiger!" The boy she gave the flower to ignites with golden power, yelling that she can't handle this monster on her own. He unleashes his energy, telling her to run, while realizing they'll need to work together to survive. In the heat of the moment, he finally processes her words, wondering why she keeps calling him White Tiger. He pushes the thought aside, focusing on the immediate threat before them. As the serpent attacks, he braces himself, prepared to take the hit to buy her time, but warning her to be cautious in the future. His priority is getting her to safety, but she feels her body being pulled away against her will. As she fades from the dream, he says a final goodbye, thanking her for comforting him when he was sad. Back in reality, the little cub jolts awake with a sense of urgency, trying to warn someone of the danger. An attendant leans over her bed, gently asking if the princess is finally awake. It was all a dream, but she shudders, thinking it felt too real, especially the horrifying black serpent. She recalls the dream's two opposing forces, the sacred white tiger and the eerie, terrifying black serpent. She realizes with a jolt that the black serpent appeared in her dream on the very same day her powers awakened. Her attention is drawn to a flustered Sophie, and she realizes something must be wrong for her composed nanny to seem so agitated. A chilling memory of a voice echoes in her mind, "Always be careful, I might come to see you." The timing of the memory sends a shiver down her spine, making her wonder what it could mean. Her fear intensifies as the doors to her room begin to glow and swing open, making her wonder if the serpent has come for her. But standing in the doorway is her father, and a wave of relief washes over her. It wasn't a monster, just the emperor. He greets his daughter, Juicy, and she can't contain her happy cry, realizing just how much she missed him. As he kneels down to her, she puffs out her chest, eager to get praise for finally awakening her ability. Her father holds her, thinking how much his daughter has grown, while she weakly recognizes him. She expects praise, but senses something is off, as her father stares somberly into the night. The scene flashes back to a secret meeting, where a white-haired man reports troubling news about the sacred Anash birch trees. A divine beast named Anash once sealed a dark entity, but its own body shattered in the process. The fragments of its body scattered across the land. Where the fragments landed, sacred trees grew, and any problem with them was a sign of impending disaster. He presents a blackened, dead branch, confirming he found a dead Anash birch by the Rosart River. The council erupts in shock, horrified that the sacred birch died at the Rosart River basin of all places. Her father reveals that reports of dying trees have surged ever since his daughter, Juicy, was born. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he personally went to inspect the trees at the Rosart River basin. He grimly confirms the reports were true, leaving his advisors speechless with worry. Lumiere points out that this location is also believed to be where the dark divine beast was sealed. The emperor adds that the beast's true identity and precise location remain a mystery. For years, they investigated suspected locations, with the Rosart River, ominously called the River of Death, being the most likely candidate. An official nervously wonders if this means a great disaster is finally upon them. Another speculates that the seal is weakening because Anash has been reincarnated as the princess. A sharp-eyed official connects the dots, noting that the sacred birches only started withering after the princess was born. The council debates the prophecy, concluding that the princess's birth, health, and early awakening all point to her being Anash reincarnated. If their theory holds, one of them states, then the breaking seal might not be a problem after all. An advisor excitedly suggests using the princess to fight the disaster, causing the room to erupt in chaos. Enraged, the emperor explodes with power, forbidding anyone from daring to hide behind his daughter. The terrified council members immediately drop to their knees, begging for His Majesty's forgiveness. But Lumiere steps forward, confidently reminding them of their empire's strong and proud army. With a dazzling smile, he stands tall, radiating an aura of absolute confidence. He tells the council to rest easy, his perfect timing earning a silent cheer from an official. The emperor slams his fist down, declaring he'll coordinate with the Lilburg Empire to counter the Dark Beast. Ada 6, a duke from a bear family, protests, arguing the human-led Lilburg Empire would never cooperate with beast folk. The emperor insists they'll have no choice, since the region will become unsafe if the beast is freed. In fact, he grimly states, it's safe to assume the attacks on Lilburg have already begun. Lumiere looks stunned, asking his father what he could possibly mean by that. The emperor reveals the Lilburg emperor was assassinated a few years ago, shocking the council. Since the people of Lilburg revere their emperor and always choose the strongest mage to rule, none of them had a motive for the murder. This means a third party was involved, and the timing perfectly aligns with when the sacred birches began to die. His plan is clear. Meeting the new Western emperor is the only way to get answers.
Lumiere asks about the new emperor, but his father explains that information is scarce after the assassination threw the continent into chaos. As his father rises from his throne, Lumiere watches with a serious expression.
The emperor declares his intention to formally request diplomatic relations, no matter who the new ruler is. He orders the delegation to be prepared, and Lumiere dutifully agrees. Walking behind his father, Lumiere worries about what unreasonable demands the other empire might make. The emperor calmly replies that they will willingly yield, no matter the cost. Though he praises his father's wisdom, Lumiere's determined expression shows he understands the weight of this decision. The emperor's eyes glow with resolve as he thinks he will never allow this to happen. Returning to the present, he looks down at his daughter, refusing to let them use such a small child to fight a terrifying monster consumed with fear for what might happen to Juicy. The little cub looks up, confused, as if she can sense her father's heavy thoughts. Looking out over the moonlit palace, he tells her she doesn't have to force herself to do anything. She looks up at him, puzzled by his words, wondering what he means. She remembers the horrifying serpent from her dream, connecting it to the divine beast of darkness and her own power. With a newfound determination, she realizes that eventually she will be the one who has to fight it. Noticing her shiver, her father asks if she's cold, but she just whines, overwhelmed by a sudden wave of worry. With a warm smile, her father suggests they head inside before she catches a cold. Touched by his concern, she looks up at him and thinks, "Dad." Holding on to him tightly, she realizes her newfound power exists for one reason: to protect the people she loves. She snuggles up to him with a happy growl, thinking he's the best dad ever while he blushes from the cute attack. Later that night, she decides she needs to learn how to use her ability, and she knows just who to ask for help tomorrow. A memory surfaces of a voice telling her that because he's her big brother, he can understand her, making them a special pair of siblings. The next day, she begs a blonde-haired boy named Izetin to teach her, knowing he's the only one with powers who can understand her animal form. Izetin grins, his fangs showing, as he happily asks if she wants him to teach her how to control her ability. Juicy flops onto her back, waving her paws in the air, overwhelmed with relief at finally being understood. Izetin agrees to help, telling her to show him what she's got, as a knight and a maid watch from behind. But when she tries, nothing happens, and she wonders why her ability isn't working while the knight cheers her on. Izetin notices it's a no-go every time she tries, and gently calls out her name, Juicy. She panics internally, realizing she can't feel her power at all. With a horrified expression, she wonders what in the world is going on. The green-haired knight is confused, positive he saw the power of Anash before, and can't figure out why it's gone now. Steaming with frustration, Juicy can't believe her ability just won't come out. She slumps over in defeat, starting to think her awakening was just a one-time fluke. Seeing her distress, Izetin gently apologizes to Juicy. He gives her a comforting pat on the head as she lets out a sad little whimper. He scoops her into his arms, and she looks up at him, thinking his name, Izetin. He holds her close, reassuring her that an ability, once awakened, doesn't just vanish, so she shouldn't worry. Izetin strikes a triumphant pose, lifting her into the air to cheer her up. Mission accomplished. They try a new training method, and she cutely asks if she's doing it right. He joins in her enthusiastic shouts, getting into the spirit of her training. But even after several more days of training, things weren't looking good. Juicy lies on the floor, completely exhausted, as the knight and a maid watch with horrified expressions. Sophie worries that J's and C's
abilities still won't appear, despite her training all day, every day, while the others try to rally the passed-out princess. Izetin watches her struggle with a pensive and serious expression. Seeing Sophie crying, Izetin picks up the tiny J as in you, C-I-E, and tells her to cheer up, which surprises Sophie, who calls him the Crown Prince. With a new plan in mind, the Crown Prince points ahead with a confident smile. The scene transitions, taking them outside the grand palace. Izetin stands confidently before Juicy, ready to reveal his brilliant new training idea. He dramatically flops into a field of flowers, announcing that today's training is taking a nap, leaving Juicy completely baffled. He explains that her mind needs to be at peace for her power to manifest, so their only job today is to relax.
Though she's skeptical of his training methods, she decides to play along for now.
As she lies down in the grass, she has to admit that it is surprisingly peaceful. Suddenly, her eyes land on a flower, and she realizes it looks exactly like the one from her dream. The memory sparks a question. Why did those boys in her dream protect her from that terrifying dark beast? She remembers the brown-haired boy from her dream, realizing he's been appearing ever since, but she's never been able to ask who he is. The frustration of it all gets to her, and Izetin notices her getting worked up again. Seeing her distress, he decides it's up to him to calm her down. He turns into Teacher Izetin, complete with a chalkboard, declaring the real reason for their training is to become cool, because her divine name, Anash, is awesome. She sees him blushing and looking away, realizing he's just trying his best to comfort her in his own awkward way. Her heart softens, thinking she understands him better now, and she happily agrees to stop being anxious. He smiles, relieved that she's feeling better, and gives her a gentle pat. He then looks up, noticing that Sophie, Uni, and Xaviet have found them. The trio arrives with a picnic, telling her that resting is part of training and bringing her favorite snacks, making her realize just how worried they all were. She's deeply touched by how much they care about her, even when she can't use her powers. Surrounded by her friends, she resolves to start her training fresh tomorrow, full of new determination. As the day ends peacefully, one of her maids asks if she enjoyed her special outing.
A blonde-haired boy with striking golden eyes has a tense expression as he's asked to try something. The scene shifts to the magnificent, sun-drenched exterior of the Crown Prince's palace. Inside, a dark-haired man named Count Talon finds the office a complete mess and asks what happened after the training with the princess. A different blonde-haired boy at the desk looks exhausted, certain that a dark divine beast has awakened. The blonde boy, Izetin, confides in Talon that ever since hearing the news, he's been having nightmares about the beast targeting his sister, Juicy. Talon tries to calm him, reminding him that the princess is protected by elite, super-powered beastkin, from her knights to her maids. He adds that her guard knight, Xavier, is from the powerful green anaconda family, so a dark divine beast would be no problem. Talon argues that the beast must have its own problems, but Izetin cuts him off, still unconvinced. Izetin slams his desk, insisting his nightmares feel like a terrible omen for Juicy, while a weary Talon realizes he can't be reasoned with. With a look of grim determination, Izaten rises from his seat, making a decision. Suddenly, Sophie appears at the door with a knight to greet the crown prince, who recognizes his aunt. With a gentle smile, Sophie holds up a beautiful bouquet, explaining she's come to deliver a gift to His Highness. Both Izaten and Talon are stunned into silence by the unexpected delivery of a flower bouquet. Someone walks purposefully across the gleaming floor. Izaten approaches Sophie, confused, and asks her about the bouquet. Beaming, Sophie reveals it's a gift from the princess, which leaves Izaten completely speechless. He holds the flowers, touched that while he was consumed with worry, Juicy was thinking of him. A genuine warm smile spreads across his face as he looks at Sophie, his mood instantly lifted. Meanwhile, the little cub lies in bed, wondering if Izatun got her gift, and feeling a bit sad she couldn't give it to him in person. As she drifts off, she hopes for a peaceful night's sleep, free from the unsettling dreams that have been plaguing her. But she's immediately pulled back into the same vibrant dreamscape by the lake. She walks a familiar green path, knowing this is where she always meets the white tiger and the black snake. She spots the familiar brown-haired boy, frustrated that the snake always appears before she can learn his identity. The boy turns to greet her with a warm smile, and she becomes determined to finally get some answers today. He pats the log beside him, asking if she's been well, and she hops up to join him. He gently pets her head, happy to see she looks healthy. She tries to ask him his name, Kahang, but feels a lump in her throat, unable to get the words out. He senses the difficulty and assures her that it will be all right, and she will be able to speak when she's ready. She strains, desperate to ask his true name before it's too late. Just then, a familiar dark energy fills the air, and she realizes with dread that the black snake has arrived. As she panics, the boy calmly reassures her, knowing they're about to be separated again. Golden light erupts from his hands as he makes a solemn vow to protect her, no matter what. With golden chains binding the darkness, he sadly tells her their time is up for today. A massive, majestic white tiger appears, urging the little cub to flee while they handle the threat. The dream dissolves into a blizzard, leaving her once again without answers. She wakes up with a start, back in the safety of her bed. A maid watches over her as she sleepily rubs her eyes. The maid gives her a warm smile and wishes the princess a good morning. The maid then teases her about sleep talking, and the little cub is absolutely mortified. She looks around, confused about Count Talon's absence, only to see her father standing beside the maid. Her father smiles, informing her that the crown prince was very pleased with her bouquet. He then presents a return gift from her brother, catching the little cub completely by surprise. It's an extravagant bouquet made of glimmering jewels, worth enough to buy a mansion, and she can't believe her eyes. She stares, dumbfounded, at the ridiculously opulent gift her brother left for her without a word. He also gave her a tiger statue, and she sighs, thinking he's just as extra as their father. Leaping off the bed in frustration, she hears her attendants comment that father and son are exactly alike. The green-haired knight and dark-haired maid giggle, observing how much the two cherish the princess
and dreading the day she finds a lover. The thought alone makes them both freeze in terror. They imagine two gigantic, furious tigers looming over them, and the very idea is horrifying. Shaking off the thought, they decide it's a problem for the distant future, while the cub decides to go see Izatun. Just then, Izatun appears in the hallway, calling for Juicy to come train with him, and she happily trots after her brother. Surrounded by golden light, Izatun declares his most urgent goal is to master his power and freely shapeshift into human form. He tries to teach Juicy how to unleash her power, but unfortunately, nothing happens. Meanwhile, her father's search for the dark divine beast yielded no results, only finding more of the mysteriously withering Anash birch trees. He looks on grimly, having found no other clues, leaving them at a dead end. The mood shifts to a party where everyone cheers for the princess as the tiny tiger cub leaps excitedly toward a giant cake. Splat! She face plants right into the frosting, and the narration notes that despite the underlying worries, their peaceful days continued. A dark, green-haired man smiles down gently at the little white tiger. Flashing through her memories, she recalls how people tried to use her talents, while in her dreams, the brown-haired boy grew stronger, subduing the black snake. But in the real world, her powers and physical growth remained completely stalled. Then, one day, the frequency of her dreams began to fade after a vision of a shadowy figure bound in golden chains. A mysterious red-eyed boy appears in a storm of dark and golden energy, calling out her name, Tiger. After the boy's cryptic greeting, her strange dreams stopped coming altogether. Back in the present, the little white tiger cub looks up with her big, soulful eyes. She reflects that now that she's 2 years old, her tiger stripes have become much more distinct. A maid tells her to stop staying there and prepare to greet a guest, leaving Juicy confused about who's coming. The maid smiles, reminding her it's the day she's supposed to prepare a birthday gift for the emperor with Izatun. Kang! Juicy freezes in shock. She totally forgot. Having fainted from the stress, Juicy goes limp as the concerned maid tries to comfort her. A flashback shows the emperor sulking for 3 whole days, with Izatun and an attendant begging him to stop causing trouble for the palace. Just then, Uni announces the crown prince's arrival, and Juicy scrambles, realizing she needs to get ready right away. As Izatun walks down the hall, Juicy remembers her plan was to make the gift with his help. And right on cue, Izatun appears, looking handsome and holding a gift box. The scene transitions with a soft floral pattern. As they arrive at a beautiful pavilion, a voice welcomes the crown prince. The maid and Izatun set up an art station, encouraging Juicy to create whatever she wants for the card. She's thrilled to be making a handmade birthday card and eagerly asks for the paints. She and the maid share a cute moment, agreeing it's time to get started. With intense focus, she dips her little white paw into the paint palette. She takes her first step as an artist, pressing her paint-covered paw onto the paper. Izatun walks in with more supplies, and Juicy wonders what he brought, thinking her dad hardly needs anything more. He smiles warmly, explaining he's here to help her make the card, and praising her for being so thoughtful. With her paws now covered in blue paint, she sits proudly as the maid and Izatun watch over her project.
Izetten wisely tells the maid that sincere effort and love are things money can't buy. Juicy perks up, raising her paw as if to say, "I heard that."
Elsewhere, Xaviet tells Uni he's heard rumors that human mages can use multiple attributes, which she finds hard to believe.
Bam! Professor Izetten strikes again, using a chalkboard to explain that mages, unlike their kind, aren't limited to a single attribute. Xaviet and Uni jump, completely startled by his sudden lecture. Seriously, where does he keep coming from? Recovering from the shock, Xaviet admits that the ability to use multiple attributes would make mages incredibly powerful. As Uni and Xaviet listen intently, she thinks about the boy in her dream who wields golden chains. A hopeful thought crosses her mind. If the boy from her dream is a mage, maybe she'll get to meet him for real someday. Izetten jumps as Juicy suddenly sits up, and she silently marvels at how perceptive he is. Ta-da! She proudly presents the world's first birthday card from the White Tiger Princess, and Izetten beams, telling her she did a great job. The maid gushes over her genius and reminds her to let the card dry before bringing it. As Izetten blushes with pride, Juicy confidently promises she'll bring it. It's a sweet family moment as the maid holds Juicy and Izetten looks on with a happy smile.
The maid tells Her Highness it's time to get cleaned up, and Juicy lets out a happy cheer of agreement.
In the Grand Hall, the Emperor is in a frenzy, shouting orders to prepare for the delegations and asking where the princess is. From a balcony above, Juicy quietly observes the chaotic preparations for the party. She waits patiently, looking around and wondering if the delegation has arrived yet. Sitting proudly next to her "Happy Birthday, Dad" card, she thinks this is her chance to make a great impression. A voice calls out from above, asking the little white tiger which accessory she'd like. She looks up, announcing she's on her way.
Two maids present their options, a blue tiara that matches her eyes, or a red one that'll make her pop. Too many choices.
Juicy is already exhausted by the decision, groaning that they're both pretty, so they should just pick one. As the maids bicker, Juicy dreads how much worse this will be when she's human and decides to make a break for it. Whoosh! She teleports away in a flash of purple light, escaping the fashion police. But her freedom is short-lived. Now she's stuck on a tiny throne, wearing a little crown and looking miserable, complaining about all the accessories Izetten gave her. In another room, Count Talon struggles to hold a door open, urging Izetten to hurry to the banquet. The prince ignores him, focused on a gift box, while Juicy just glares, completely over it. She glances at a tiny bracelet on her paw, thinking her family is so weird for dressing her up when it's her dad's birthday. The gray-haired maid, Sophie, reassures her it's a sign of their love and tells her it's time to enter the hall. As they walk, Juicy feels confident, knowing she left her father's precious birthday card with Jabiet for safekeeping. She pictures her dad's reaction, smiling as she imagines he might even be moved to tears by her gift. But as Sophie walks ahead, a strange feeling washes over Juicy, and she desperately calls out for help. Zap! Suddenly, she's engulfed in a blinding flash of energy, completely stunned by the sudden attack. The world goes dark and watery. She can't see, and it's getting harder and harder to breathe. An agonizing pain tears through her body as she plummets through the darkness, fearing she's about to die. Her eyes flash with blue light as she fights back, remembering her promise to protect the ones she loves and refusing to collapse now. Hearing the struggle, Sophie turns around just in time to see the little tiger stumble and fall.
Thud, Juicy hits the floor, her crown clattering beside her as a voice screams her title in horror.
In the ensuing chaos, Sophie scoops up the unconscious princess while ordering someone to alert the emperor immediately.
Clutching the limp tiger cub, Sophie desperately begs her to hang on. As her consciousness fades, Jaycee's last thoughts are of her dad's birthday and how worried he and Izetin will be. In a vision, her father and a distraught Izetin plead with her to stay with them and open her eyes. The emperor shouts for Jaycee to be taken to the infirmary as she weakly thinks about her dad and the gift she couldn't give him. The emperor rushes through the palace, cradling his unconscious daughter, while Izetin runs beside him, both filled with terror. The scene shifts to the Grand Palace on the eve of the emperor's birthday banquet, a historic event marking an exchange between the Pentaryn and Rilberk empires. Inside, the emperor and Izetin meet with a mysterious delegation cloaked in dark robes. Their meeting is cut short when a frantic guard bursts in, breathlessly trying to deliver some terrible news about the princess. He finally blurts out that the princess has collapsed, and the emperor's face contorts with rage and disbelief. The emperor storms into the infirmary, demanding answers, but a healer can only tell him that despite channeling divine power into her, it's not working. Jazzy lies motionless on a pillow, her condition showing no signs of improvement whatsoever. Izetin explodes with fury, roaring at the healers to stop making excuses and save her at once. Every priestess in the palace surrounds the tiny princess, pouring their energy into her, a clear sign that this is no minor illness. The emperor clenches his fist, realizing they need a power greater than their own, or one just as potent to fight this. A sudden idea strikes him, the imperial sacred relic.
The relic is revealed, an ornate golden cross capable of amplifying divine power and supernatural abilities. With this holy item, he believes they can finally heal Juicy. Resolved, the emperor gives the order to bring forth the sacred relic. Izetin looks at his father, horrified, questioning if he would truly risk using the priceless holy relic for a cure. The emperor whirls on him, furiously asking if he'd rather just watch his own daughter die. Consequences be damned. Done arguing, he turns to leave, declaring he'll retrieve the relic himself if no one else has the guts to do it. But just as he's about to leave, a calm voice from a cloaked figure offers to heal the princess for him. The emperor is stunned. The intruder is from the Lilberg delegation, and he has no idea how they slipped into a restricted area unnoticed. He demands the person identify themselves, and the mysterious boy simply smiles. The boy removes his hood, revealing a young, red-eyed boy who politely apologizes for intruding, explaining he's here to help. The emperor instinctively puts a protective arm in front of Izetin, completely wary of this strange child. A wave of golden energy emanates from the boy as he prepares to reveal his true identity. He introduces himself as Ekiel Isles Lilberg, the archmage of the delegation, and, shockingly, the emperor of Lilberg. The emperor's eyes widen as he sees the imperial signet ring on the boy's hand, realizing the rumors about Lilberg's throne being open to the powerful were true. Izetin is speechless. This kid is an emperor? His shock turns to alarm as he spots something moving, shouting that a plant is creeping toward Juicy. A blonde-haired man rushes toward a meditating boy in a dark cloak, demanding to know what's happening.
Duke Zetar looms over the dark-haired boy, questioning his presence and reminding him of the White Tiger Princess's importance. The Duke holds the boy, stating with grim determination that he came with the intent to heal her. The boy, addressing the Duke as father, eagerly asks to be entrusted with her care, while the Duke notes that Juicy's breathing is stabilizing, wondering if the Emperor's treatment is working. The Duke agrees to entrust the princess to his son's care, while a younger, blonde-haired boy stands by. The dark-haired boy leans over Juicy, telling her to endure a little longer. He gently places his hands over her small tiger form, and a warm golden healing light envelops them. The scene shifts to a vast snowy expanse where a small white-haired girl stands alone. She looks around, confused, wondering where she is, and recalling that she collapsed on the way to her father's birthday party. Suddenly, she sees a massive white tiger paw step onto a bed of ice flowers, leaving her bewildered. She looks up from the paw, her confusion growing as she takes in the scene around her. A majestic white tiger now stands before her, and she asks if it's the same one from her dreams. As she faces the creature, she senses this encounter is different, more real than any dream she's had before. The massive tiger sits before her, its gaze piercing and ancient as they stare at each other in the celestial space. Instinctively, she reaches out, and the tips of her fingers touch the tiger's enormous paw. In that instant, memories flood her mind. The memories of the divine beast Anash, living peacefully alongside another tiger named Ganache. The visions continue, showing the terrifying arrival of the divine beast of darkness, a giant purple serpent, and Anash's final desperate battle against it. Ganache, in a desperate attempt to save him, joined the fray. The truth hits her with the force of a tidal wave. She is the reincarnation of Anash.
She can't believe it's real, yet deep down, she knows this unbelievable revelation is the absolute truth. The overwhelming flood of ancient memories and power makes it impossible for her to doubt her identity. Now she understands the reason for her reincarnation after thousands of years of silence. Her purpose, her destiny, is to obliterate the divine beast of darkness, which has been reborn alongside her. The girl and the tiger become one in purpose, accepting that this is their destiny, Anash's mission. She realizes with dread that the divine beast of darkness, which she believed was in an eternal slumber, is active once more. If the beast is alive, she reasons, it must have followers aiding its return. A voice corrects her, stating it was reborn as a beast folk, not a divine beast. The tiger's paw gently touches her face as its voice explains that the beast will need time to reconstruct the body that was annihilated in their last battle. She listens with rapt attention, absorbing the grave news. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her news. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to withstand her own immense power, or she will suffer from the overload, just as she did today. The tiger warns her that she must strengthen her body to
It tells her there are no shortcuts to this power, leaving her feeling a little frustrated. The tiger urges her to go forth, as many await her return, but she panics, asking how she's supposed to reclaim her power and memories. With a flash of light, the tiger's voice explains she must first prepare a vessel capable of wielding her power, and then venture out to retrieve her memories herself. "Is that all?" she yells, frustrated by the vague advice. The voice simply tells her she will understand with time. Her eyes flutter open, and she realizes she's not in her own room. The Duke and his younger blonde son are at her bedside, calling out her name, Juicy.
to which she responds with a tiny squeak. Looking at the teary-eyed boy, she thinks to herself, "Silly brother, just how much did you cry?" The Duke leans in with a relieved smile, asking if she's feeling any better. She lets out a cheerful chirp, assuring them that she's perfectly fine now. To prove her point, she triumphantly stomps her paw, cracking the floor with a surge of blue energy. Whoops! A massive blast of uncontrolled icy power erupts from her, shocking everyone in the room, including herself. Her powers are going haywire, and she wonders if it's a side effect of remembering her past life, while her brother calls her name in alarm. She panics, thinking that she needs to get this under control, but her power isn't listening to her. The younger boy looks desperately toward the Duke, crying out, "Father?" The Duke steps calmly into the swirling vortex of magic, reassuring Juicy that he'll help her rein in her powers. He gently scoops her up, telling her she just lost control because she was startled, and she quietly agrees. Holding her paw, he praises her, saying she's doing wonderfully for her first time controlling her magic. Sniffle. The palace staff rushes in as the Duke thinks with pride that she can finally use her powers. One of the hooded attendants remarks that she must have suffered so much until now with power this strong. The Duke explains her body was aching to accept her abilities. She eagerly wonders if she can use them freely now, and he confirms it. All that's left is to reclaim her strength and memories to defeat the dark divine beast. But her thoughts are interrupted when she spots the dark-haired boy. She immediately leaps out of the Duke's arms, who shouts in protest that she's still supposed to be recovering. But she's too excited, letting out a joyful squeal as she internally cheers, "I've been waiting!" In a sparkling flashback, Juicy remembers her first happy meeting with the dark-haired boy. A narrator explains that the celebratory banquet, canceled after her collapse, was being rescheduled. The scene shifts to the stunning imperial palace, ready for a grand event. The party was held a few days later, and this time it was even bigger and better. Dressed in her royal best, Juicy feels too embarrassed about what happened to even leave her room. A thought suddenly strikes her. The boy who healed her must have been part of the envoy. Held by Akil, she happily nuzzles him as her father and a stunned Izetin look on, thinking she knew it all along. The Emperor glares, demanding to know why Juicy is being so chummy with the visiting dignitary. Juicy is shocked to learn he's an emperor, which explains his power, while he calmly observes she must be well-loved. As Akil holds her with a bright smile, Juicy is confused by his polite but distant demeanor, wondering if he's a stranger. The Emperor snatches her back, asking Akil to forgive her rudeness, leaving Juicy completely bewildered by the sudden shift. Her heart sinks as a horrible realization dawns on her. He doesn't recognize her at all. Devastated, she realizes his voice and expression were genuine. He was the boy from her dream, and she'd foolishly assumed he was real. Just as she's spiraling, a familiar figure approaches her tiny throne. It's Izetin, who scoops her into a warm, comforting hug, and she melts into his arms. Noticing her mood, he offers to take her back, but she rallies, insisting she's fine and can't ruin her dad's birthday. She thinks it was embarrassing to be so friendly, but hey, you live and you learn. An attendant claps his hands together, preparing for a grand announcement. He proudly presents the guest of honor, the Penteran Empire's little guardian and angel. Izetan holds her high for all to see, thinking she's bounced back, while Juicy is simply amazed by the grand scene. To her absolute horror, her dad proudly shows off her handmade Happy Birthday Daddy card to the entire court. So embarrassing. Izetan tries to cheer up the mortified princess by feeding her a tasty treat. Her eyes sparkle as she savors the delicious snack, her mood instantly lifted. Just then, the delegation makes their entrance, and Juicy notes that they've finally arrived. The emperor formally welcomes the delegation, thanking them for making the long journey. He marvels at the beautiful, star-like flowers blooming around them, a gift from one of the guests. The guest, a man with reddish-brown hair, explains that while most beastmen wield one power, the 4 great families can use more. Flowers sprout at his feet as onlookers identify him as Duke Atosix, whose power is plant manipulation. 2 cloaked figures watch in awe, remarking on the incredible power needed to make flowers bloom so freely. Juicy notices Ekiel's fascinated expression, thinking it's just like the boy from her dream, and assumes he's never seen a beastman's power before. Ekiel politely thanks his hosts for the welcome, while Juicy reminds herself to play it cool this time. He adds that he's happy to see Her Highness the Princess looking well again. Juicy groans internally, still completely baffled as to why he doesn't recognize her. Ekiel then presents a gift from the Lilburg Empire, summoning it with a burst of purple energy.
An ornate golden box materializes from a spatial portal, shocking everyone with the display of magic.
The emperor accepts the gift, graciously thanking him for the thoughtful token of gratitude. Inside the box sit 2 shimmering, otherworldly orbs. The emperor's eyes widen in recognition as Ekiel confirms his suspicion. They're communication magic orbs. Later, the delegation departs, and Izetan seems pleased with the diplomatic exchange. He notices Juicy seems down and gently asks her what's wrong. Waving a paw, she tells him she's just going to her room for a bit. She walks away dejectedly, admitting to herself that she's just plain tired. Standing alone on a moonlit balcony, she thinks about how exhausting the day has been. It was supposed to be a happy day, but seeing Emperor Ekiel just brought back painful memories. A flash of memory hits her, reaching for him, the static shock, and her own mortified reaction. She buries her face in her paws, cringing at the memory and screaming, "Why did I do that?" Swoosh! A lone black bird cuts across the dark night sky. As Juicy hops along the railing, her paw suddenly slips, sending her tumbling over the edge. A massive, shadowy bird figure swoops down from the darkness, its voice echoing, "Found you." Lying stunned on the ground, Juicy looks up as the mysterious figure looms over her, calling her the White Tiger Princess.
On a dark castle rooftop, a blue-haired man and a younger black-haired boy stand watch as crows caw in the night. The boy asks his blue-haired companion if a shadowy creature below is a follower of the dark divine beast, and the man confirms his suspicion. Screech! The boy, Akil, snatches a struggling crow with a magical golden chain, noting the enemy tried to use the banquet as a distraction. As his magic takes hold, the crow bursts into flames, its true, monstrous form beginning to emerge. The creature transforms into a grotesque beast, its awful stench confirming it's a dark follower. Trapping its essence in a bottle, Akil worries that the beastkin's domain is making it too easy for these monsters to sneak in, putting the princess in danger. He considers moving her, but realizing it's a delicate matter, he instead casts a shimmering purple spell on the bottle. Determined, he decides to use the creature as evidence and vows to hunt for any other followers lurking nearby. A jolt of energy hits him. He realizes there isn't just one enemy, and he knows exactly where the other one is. Ka! A monstrous bird dives toward the unsuspecting princess as Akil realizes the white tiger is in grave danger. But on the balcony, Juicy swiftly stomps out another dark bird, identifying it as a follower of the divine beast. She summons a crackling ball of blue energy, realizing her own power has grown immensely since she last saw it 2 years ago. Whoo! With a confident smile, she notes that even for a weakling, taking it down in one hit was still pretty awesome. Feeling a surge of confidence, she thinks that at this rate, she might one day be strong enough to destroy the dark divine beast itself. Screech! Her celebration is cut short as she looks up in horror. Another monster is diving right at her. Golden chains suddenly flash before her eyes, and she freezes, realizing it's too late to dodge. But instead of an attack, she's surrounded by a brilliant light and golden roses as a calm voice asks if she's hurt. It's him, the boy from her dream, stands before her, wreathed in a golden aura. She stares at his hand, crackling with the same power from her dream, and knows it's truly him. Overjoyed, she squeaks excitedly that they've met before, thrilled that it wasn't just her imagination. Ekiel just gives her a polite, warm smile and says he's glad she's unharmed, leaving Juicy utterly baffled. Her fur bristles with indignation as she puffs up, demanding he stop pretending he doesn't know her. Juicy fumes as he maintains his pleasant smile, realizing he's just going to keep playing dumb. His expression suddenly shifts, his red eyes turning deadly serious. His voice now cold, Ekiel orders the white tiger to go back inside her room immediately. For a moment, she's ecstatic, her heart pounding as she thinks, "I knew it! It was him!" But her joy fades as she realizes he vanished the instant she blinked, leaving only her crown behind. Sitting alone, she puzzles over the mystery. He's definitely the Emperor of Lilburg, so why is he pretending not to recognize her? Meanwhile, a sinister voice watches from the shadows, murmuring that the rat from Lilburg seems to have caught their scent. As golden energy flashes nearby, the hidden figure decides to retreat, vowing to wait for their next meeting. A pair of shoes lands silently on the stone ground. Ekiel looks around, his senses on high alert. Surrounded by his chains, he confirms he sensed another presence, but it vanished without a trace. He looks toward the palace, realizing the true threat was right near the princess, and the danger will only grow now that her power is awakened. From a distance, he watches Juicy, concluding there's only one way to truly protect her. The blue-haired man suddenly teleports in, scolding His Majesty for using spatial magic without him again. Ekiel collapses to one knee from the strain, grumbling that he literally just got there. The blue-haired man is not amused, and a caption appears, "Ignored. Looks like someone's getting the silent treatment." The man asks if he caught the follower, but Ekiel explains that the princess had already taken care of it herself. A fond smile plays on Ekiel's lips as he thinks to himself how she's not just adorable, but also incredibly strong. He recalls instinctively shielding her with his chains and realizes she's convinced he's the boy from her dream, leaving him wondering what to do. He feels a pang of guilt, knowing she's been waiting for him, but he knows he can't tell her the truth just yet. He clenches his fist with resolve, vowing to keep his secret until he's finally caught the dark divine beast. With newfound determination, he promises himself that next time he will not fail. The scene shifts to a grand meeting room where dignitaries from different empires are gathered around a table. Penteren's emperor sits at the head of the table, his expression stern and focused. Across from him, Emperor Ekiel maintains a calm and composed demeanor. Juicy happily scampers across the palace grounds under a bright, sunny sky. A historic handshake takes place between the two emperors, marking the first meeting between their races since the ancient war, with all key figures in attendance. Looking up at a green-haired knight, Juicy thinks that with even her brother, the crown prince, attending, the atmosphere around the palace has become incredibly tense. The green-haired crown prince watches the proceedings, his thoughts fixed on preserving peace between the empires. But Juicy is done waiting around, thinking she can't just do nothing, when a voice calls out to her. With a determined look, she raises her tiny paw, ready for action. Whee! She leaps at the crown prince, who easily catches her, promising to hold back his strength. Glowing with power, she thinks he's underestimating her, while he nervously wonders if she's about to injure him. She unleashes a blast of energy, yelling for her brother, Javielte, to take this. Back at the formal meeting, Ekiel begins to address the court. The Emperor of Penteren listens closely, his expression serious. Ekiel graciously states that it was only natural for his delegation to come. The Emperor smiles, agreeing that now is the perfect time for their two empires to finally join forces. He then asks Duke Atasix to present the evidence he mentioned in his letter, and the Duke nervously complies. The Emperor reveals an ancient prophecy. A white tiger was destined to stop the dark divine beast, which is why his family has protected something for generations. Atasix unveils a bundle of charred, blackened branches, and the Emperor identifies them as the birches of Anash. He confirms they are the embodiment of a divine being, but they have been withering ever since Princess Juicia was born. Meanwhile, Javielte holds a tuckered-out Juicy, laughing that she still can't beat him, as she lets out a tiny yip. Ekiel's blue-haired adjutant, Erna Rudella, grimly notes that it's as if the dark divine beast is attacking the god Anash himself. The officials realize the beast's ultimate target is the white tiger princess, but worry about her current state. In a flashback, Juicy smirks at a shocked Javielte, thinking that since she's the child of prophecy, everything will be fine. Ekiel's voice cuts through the room, his aura flaring as he sternly orders Erna and another retainer, Noah, to watch their words.
He scolds them for their carelessness, reminding them this conference was convened to counter the very beast they're underestimating.
Erna and Noah immediately bow their heads, apologizing for their lack of foresight. The Penteran Emperor watches, impressed by how deftly the young ruler handles his court. He adds, however, that the princess is still just a fragile beast woman, far too weak to face the dark divine beast alone. With grim determination, he declares that they must all prepare for the enemy's inevitable return. Ikiel listens with a grave expression, taking in the full weight of the situation. His adjutant presents a document, continuing the briefing. In a cute side panel, the retainers gossip about their young emperor's incredible abilities. Ekiel sweats, looking a bit overwhelmed as one of his men beams proudly beside him. The emperor notes that even the archmages recognize Ekiel's exceptional talent, which Erna eagerly confirms. The scene closes on a grand door as a voice expresses gratitude for their cooperation. Erna begins to explain the history of magic, noting that some are born with mana instead of divine abilities, a power measured in magical force. He elaborates that while talent is innate, becoming an archmage requires discipline, potential, and lineage, a boring lesson for some. Among the most powerful are the stars, an elite few chosen to serve the emperor. And if they are the stars, he explains, then His Majesty is the sky they revolve around. A flashback shows a young boy kneeling within a magic circle, as the narration states that intelligence is tied to magical power. This extraordinary child, born with immense mana, is revealed to be the current emperor of Lilburg, Ikiel. Erna boasts that Ikiel's talent even astonished the previous emperor, but Ikiel quickly cuts him off. His other retainer, Noah, starts to chime in with his own praise, only to be silenced by Ikiel as well. Another dignitary suggests that a genius like him must have an exceptional memory, which Ikiel confirms can sometimes be a burden. He explains that an overload of memories could drive a person to madness, a chilling thought that sobers one of his retainers. But a special inheritance, a ring from a childhood mentor, protects him from this fate, ensuring he can lead the alliance. He reveals the name of his benefactor, Tantitus Isles Lilburg. A flashback shows a gentle hand on a young boy's head, the late former emperor of Lilburg. Ikiel clarifies that this man was also his grandfather, seen in a portrait holding him as a baby. The story shifts to the year of his birth, when a torrential downpour flooded the Rosart River. As dark clouds gathered, a swirling vortex of energy appeared, and his grandfather immediately suspected the dark divine beast. Staring into a scrying orb, the old emperor paled, realizing the sealed beast was beginning to awaken. 10 of the elite stars were dispatched, and after a 3-day battle, managed to seal the resurfacing beast in a crystal orb. But the victory came at a great cost. 5 of the stars, including Ikiel's parents, sacrificed their lives to stop the revival. In a heartbreaking memory, a crying baby Ikiel reaches for his weeping grandfather, who tearfully asks if the infant is trying to comfort him. Holding baby Ezekiel, his grandfather sadly admits he can't be a parent, but promises to be the best mentor he can be.
Ezekiel reflects that his grandfather kept that promise, becoming a trusted teacher who shielded him from the pain of his parents' absence. As they walk hand in hand, his grandfather explains that to destroy the dark divine beast, the white tiger Anash, is essential, a revelation that ended Ezekiel's peaceful childhood. A man with slicked back, silver-white hair confirms something to a young Ezekiel who sits intently before a glowing blue orb. Because the beast was always trying to escape its seal, his grandfather had to suppress the crystal orb daily. But one day, a curious Ezekiel reached out to touch it. Grasping the orb, Ezekiel is hit with a vision. The black serpent is hunting the white tiger, seeking to reclaim the power it lost 1,000 years ago. The vision continues as Ezekiel holds the orb, its chains of light swirling around him, repeating that the black serpent is targeting the white tiger. The orb reveals the beast's ancient grudge. It wants to consume the very power it lost to the white tiger in a war long ago. His grandfather rushes in, shocked, calling out his name as Ezekiel stands transfixed by the orb's power. "Did you read the dark divine beast's thoughts?" his grandfather asks in horror, as Ezekiel, surrounded by a dark aura, calmly says, "Yes." Just as Ezekiel vows not to let the beast's interference stop him, a hand suddenly grabs his wrist with a tight grip. His grandfather pulls him into a desperate hug, pleading for him to stop, leaving a bewildered Ezekiel to question him. Still in the embrace, a wide-eyed Ezekiel looks up innocently and asks, "Did I help?" The memory is painful. The day he read the beast's mind, his grandfather wore an expression of profound sorrow. His grandfather knew his talent was limitless, and he was fated to confront the beast. Gently touching his cheek, his grandfather worries that in his quest for power, Ezekiel has had no time to feel emotion and will eventually lose himself. Kneeling before him, his grandfather announces he will cast a spell, and Ezekiel curiously asks what kind. The world melts away as his grandfather reveals the spell's name, love. With a warm, loving expression, his grandfather smiles down at him. He reflects on a childhood filled with love and guidance, thinking those happy days would last forever, even as he sits upon the throne. Crash! That happiness shatters like glass, proving to be far more fragile than he ever expected. One day in early spring, the dark divine beast finally broke its seal, escaping the crystal orb that held it captive. Scattered by his grandfather's anti-magic array, fragments of the beast's essence escaped from Lilburg. In a horrifying flashback, a young Ekiel screams for his dying grandfather to open his eyes, cradling him as he bleeds out on a shattered magic circle. Creak. Months later, now emperor, he returns to the ruined room where the beast had been sealed. The memory of his grandfather's last moments haunts the room, the place where the beast escaped and where he lost everything. Overwhelmed, he thinks he never wanted to come back, but knew he couldn't avoid this painful duty forever. Walking through the wreckage, he accepts his new mission to kill the beast and protect the empire, when a faint glimmer catches his eye. He picks up a glowing shard. Recognizing it as a fragment of the crystal orb he thought had been completely destroyed. Holding the fragment, he realizes that since it contained the beast for so long, he might be able to forge a stronger seal. After carrying the fragments back to his office, he studied them all night until he collapsed from exhaustion. When he woke, he found himself not at his desk, but in an endless, unfamiliar green field. Overwhelmed by fear, the beauty of nature, and the pain of his grandfather's absence even in dreams, he breaks down in tears. He cries endlessly, lost and alone in a place he doesn't recognize. Suddenly, a tiny voice sounds, "Roar!" and he looks up to see a small white tiger cub holding a flower. His tears stop as he recognizes the gentle child trying to comfort him. It's her, the reincarnation of Anash, the white tiger princess from the beast's memories, though she's far smaller and more fragile than he'd imagined. As the cub offers him the flower, he wonders why she's in his dream and asks if the gift is for him. Just as he reaches for the flower to thank her, a sinister purple energy crackles through the air. The dream shatters, revealing a dark aura as he stands protectively before the tiger, realizing with horror that the dark divine beast has found them. He understands he's inside the white tiger's dream and can read the beast's thoughts, screaming for her to watch out. An immense purple serpent lunges forward, its aura suffocating. He can't believe this is the monster that killed 5 of the elite stars. Terror grips him as he remembers that even the former emperor couldn't handle this thing, and a monstrous roar fills the air. The white tiger transforms into a glowing humanoid beast, letting out a fierce growl as she prepares to fight. His grandfather's words echo in his mind. The dark beast must be destroyed, and the white tiger is the key. Snapping himself out of his fear, he resolves to protect her, but then realizes she is not just a child. She is the white tiger. He unleashes a torrent of golden lightning, yelling at her that she can't handle this power and must escape now. His power explodes in a blinding flash of pure golden energy. Wreathed in crackling chains of light, he vows not to lose anyone else to the beast, promising to hold it off so she can escape. Waking at his desk after defeating the beast in the dream, he comes to a stunning realization. With the crystal fragment, he can enter the white tiger princess's dreams.
Akil believes this crystal fragment will be key in fighting the dark beast, but he must keep its true power a secret.
Ever since that day, he stored the fragment in a pocket dimension, observing it whenever he could. He learned the beast's plan: enter the white tiger princess's dream to kill her and regain its power, so he researched magic to counter it. When the beast entered her dream, he followed using the crystal fragment to protect the young tiger. He knew he couldn't let his guard down for even a second. As he bound the dark beast in the dream, its thoughts flowed directly into his mind. He felt its ambition to absorb the princess's power and dominate the world, a thought that strengthens his resolve. With crackling chains of light in his mind's eye, he vows to shatter the dark divine beast completely. Back in the meeting, he clenches a pendant and declares they must crush that ambition, announcing he has something to report. A red-haired man with a goatee agrees, stating they should drive away the envoys.
The Pentarine Emperor listens as Akil explains he needs to report on the connection between the Dark Beast and Anash's reincarnation. Akil reveals the beast's soul only perished alongside Anash's, while its body lay dormant in a crystal orb, until both souls were restored. The one whose soul regenerated first, the beast, broke its seal upon sensing Anash's return and escaped. He explains that his grandfather, the late emperor, dealt it a major blow, preventing it from approaching the princess directly for now. However, the beast is now sending its followers to the palace instead, as he holds up a jar containing a sinister, shadowy creature with red eyes. A man with dark blue hair presents the jar, explaining they captured this follower inside the Pentarine Palace just yesterday, and there were others. The Pentarine Emperor looks grim, realizing the beast's followers can't operate freely in the human-populated Western continent. Therefore, Ekiel proposes a bold strategy. While they hunt down followers in the east, they should relocate the princess to Lilburg for safety. He repeats his proposal to move the princess to Lilburg as the safest course of action. The Pentarine Emperor steeples his fingers, looking deep in thought as he considers the grave proposal. He stares at the captured follower in the bottle, realizing that while he doesn't want to send Juicy away, he has no choice if the palace is dangerous. With a heavy heart, he accepts the emperor's proposal, remembering a brief, painful image of his children. The scene shifts to night, where the little white tiger wakes with a jolt, confused to see the sky instead of her ceiling. Gasp! She realizes she's being held by a hooded figure and, thinking it's her maid, Sophie, is shocked to see it's someone else. It's her brother, who tells her she's awake as she squeaks his name in surprise. He explains they're going somewhere safe, but warns her movement will be difficult because of a paralyzing relic. A paralyzing relic? She panics, desperately trying to get him to say something as he carries her through the castle grounds. Looking at his grim expression, she wonders if the beast's followers have attacked again, and cries out for her dad. Huh, he scoffs, coldly telling her that their dad isn't coming with them. His eyes narrow with fury as he calls their father the same as those Lilburg bastards for agreeing to send her away. She asks him what he means, demanding an explanation as he stands on a balcony railing. He ignores her, stepping onto a flying beast, and tells her to hold on tightly as they take to the sky. She suddenly realizes his plan with horror. Wait, is he about to jump? The little tiger suddenly senses a familiar dark aura nearby, her eyes wide with fear. No, why would you do this? She cries, realizing this isn't safe at all. Her brother stops, sensing it too, his expression hardening as he holds her protectively. It seems the beasts have come to our aid, he says, his voice cold. He unsheathes his sword with a flash of light, demanding to know who's there. A woman with vibrant magenta hair appears from a swirl of purple energy, her sword glowing. "Darling," she calls out with a smile, surrounded by thorny red roses. "It's been so long." She explains she got permission from their master to visit because she was curious to see how much he'd grown. As she compliments his adorable cub form, the brother recognizes her ominous aura. It's the same as the follower from the meeting. He realizes she's a follower of the dark divine beast. "What an unexpected guest to our little reunion," she says coolly, as he angrily demands to know how she got there, trying to remember who she is. The woman considers her orders from the master to wait until the white tiger grows up, then decides she'll deal with the intruder first. As she unleashes magical spiderwebs, the white tiger cub screams. A memory suddenly clicks into place. She remembers. 1,000 years ago, a blessed follower of the dark beast was the black widow spider, Duari Hill. Her brother grunts in frustration, realizing he sealed her away with the beast. How did she resurrect alongside it?
Duari Hill stands confidently, taunting him not to hurt her darling with his brutish power.
The brother knows his little sister can't handle the spider, and neither can he with his unstable powers. The cub urges him not to fall for the taunts and to run. Steeling himself, he agrees. Though it's frustrating, he knows he can't take her on alone and must make the right choice for now. Running away? Duari Hill mocks, casting her spiderweb magic. So the brown tiger isn't much after all. As he flees with his sister, he apologizes for getting her into this mess, promising they'll talk once they're safe. The little tiger cub, carried by her brother, tearfully wonders if they finally escape to safety. He recalls that while Duari's direct attacks are weak, her real threat lies elsewhere. Her true power is a terrifying poisonous mist that paralyzes its victims. The mist takes effect, and he stumbles, realizing they're too late as the cub cries out his name in panic. In a flash, the paralyzing relic's power fades, and the little tiger realizes she can move again. No! Her freedom comes at a cost, as her brother collapses to the ground and she screams in horror. She feels pathetic for needing protection, while Duari smugly thinks that she is the one who should be protecting him. She tries to summon her power, yelling at Duari to get away, but realizes she's too exhausted from training. Seeing her chance, Duari prepares a final, deadly attack to eliminate the meddlesome brother for good. But just as she strikes, a powerful hand wreathed in golden chains grabs her wrist, commanding her to stop. Tsk. Duari is furious at the interruption, while the little tiger looks on in hopeful surprise. It's the Pentarine Emperor, their father, who has arrived just in time, much to the shock of a dark-haired Echiel standing behind him. "Take your hands off my children," the emperor declares with fiery rage, threatening to turn her to dust. The little tiger is filled with relief, confident that her father can easily handle this. "Well, this wasn't part of the plan," Duari mutters, preparing to flee as Echiel yells to stop her. With a taunting goodbye, she promises to return with her master and vanishes before Echiel can stop her. With the immediate danger gone, the Pentarine Emperor stands guard over his children, while the little tiger looks on anxiously. He gently scoops up his daughter, Juicy, apologizing for being late as she blushes in his arms. She squeaks in protest as a green healing light envelops the area, indicating her brother is also out of danger. Echiel confirms the follower has vanished without a trace, disturbed by how boldly they infiltrated the princess's palace. He concludes that time is critical. They must move the princess to a safer location immediately. Her father holds her close, informing her they will be leaving as soon as preparations are complete, much to her confusion. The attack by Duari Hill brings a swift and serious end to her brother Izatun's attempted escape.
It's decided that Izatun will face punishment for his reckless actions as soon as he recovers from his injuries. Now aware of spies in his own palace, her father makes the hard decision to send her to Lilburg, promising it's only for a short time. He hugs her tightly, apologizing and promising he will come to get her soon. Her departure is rushed, timed perfectly with the Lilburg delegation's return to their own empire. 3 elite servants who passed rigorous tests have been chosen to accompany and protect her on her journey abroad. While officially a symbol of harmony between empires, sending such a young princess to study abroad raises some serious questions. Onlookers gossip, speculating that her trip is actually a secret mission to test the fusion of Beastman and Mage magic. They praise her sense of duty, completely unaware her trip is a desperate move to hide the truth about the Dark Beast's followers. The suddenness of it all leaves her father. Her heart sinks as she realizes she's leaving so quickly she won't even get to say goodbye to her brother, Izatun. Her sad thoughts are interrupted when she spots a single leaf floating past the window.
Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind begins to blow, catching her completely by surprise. Whoa! Her father reveals their ride, a magnificent magic airship that's usually kept invisible. All her worries melt away as she squeals with pure excitement at the incredible sight. Seeing her joy, her father can't help but smile, though his expression holds a hint of deep sadness. His bittersweet look makes her own heart ache, and her excitement quickly turns back to sorrow. Trying to cheer her up, he gently boops her nose with his finger. He pulls her into a hug, promising that everything he's doing is to ensure no one can ever threaten her again. He assures her the empire is safe, but she can only think about leaving her family behind for a place she doesn't know. As she boards the airship, she calls out to her father one last time, seeing the profound loneliness in his eyes. They wave a tearful goodbye, and he shouts that he loves her and promises to contact her every day. She waves back with all her might, promising him she'll be sure to return home safely. She continues to wave until her home and her father are far out of sight. From his window, Izatun watches the airship disappear, saddened that he won't see his family for a long while. And so, for the sake of her duty as a princess, her journey to a new and unfamiliar land begins. Standing bravely on the deck of the airship, she makes a solemn vow to return stronger than ever before. Her new companions marvel at the airship's incredible speed as the palace shrinks to a tiny dot on the horizon.
The little tiger recognizes a voice just as the red-eyed boy announces an invisibility spell for the airship, wondering where that Lilburg emperor has been hiding.
He turns to her 2 new attendants, telling the ladies it's time to head inside the ship.
The little tiger sighs, resigning herself to the fact that, like it or not, she's stuck with this guy. She glares up at him, annoyed, and wondering just how long he's going to play dumb and pretend not to know her.
Now inside her new quarters, she worries if she'll be okay in Lilburg as her green-haired and black-haired attendants enter the room.
She thinks back on the red-eyed boy, remembering how he left in a flash and has been avoiding her ever since.
Looking out the window, she wonders if she'll be able to go home within a year once the dark beast is finally defeated. Her mind races as she recalls the boy's dangerous powers, paralysis, deadly poison, and even sending a spider, just like Dorari Hill. A realization dawns on her. If he's using followers to do his dirty work, it must mean he can't fully use his own powers yet. She realizes they're in the same boat. Just as she can't master her divine power, he can't handle his past life's abilities. With newfound determination, she decides to seize this opportunity to train, master her powers, and return home stronger than ever. Her new attendants whisper nearby, noticing the princess seems sad, and guessing it's because the decision to leave was so sudden. In a flash of inspiration, the two attendants decide to cheer her up. "Princess!" they call out cheerfully, startling the little tiger from her thoughts. The black-haired woman suggests they go exploring the airship to pass the time. But she's not in the mood and lets out a little yawn, declining their offer and leaving them looking disappointed. She stops, having a sudden thought. Wait a minute. Is he actually trying to take care of her? Seeing their concerned faces, she quickly changes her mind and agrees to the tour. Her attendants celebrate their victory as she secretly hopes she might run into the red-eyed boy and finally get some answers. 4 days have now passed since they left the Penterin Imperial Castle. The little tiger is having the time of her life, happily running through the halls of the airship. She reflects that all her worries have vanished, replaced by a sense of freedom she's never known before. A chef happily feeds her a delicious treat as she decides that studying abroad is definitely the best. While hiding, she perks up, hearing someone calling for a Javiet. Her attendants search frantically, the green-haired man panicking that they've lost the princess. Looks like Javiet is her new alias. She slips away, thinking her only regret is that the one person she wants to see seems to be deliberately avoiding her. She peeks into a room and stops dead in her tracks. It's the red-eyed boy, quietly reading by the window. Finally, a huge grin spreads across her face as she prepares to confront him. "Hey," she squeaks, startling him so much he blushes. She asks him why he's so surprised to see her. He awkwardly hides his face behind his book, friendly with cats and animals. Guess he's doing some research for their awkward road trip. She can't believe she found him by accident after searching for so long, and she calls him out for avoiding her. "Gotcha!" She triumphantly pounces, declaring that he's a cornered mouse with nowhere left to run. She climbs onto his lap, demanding he admit he's the person from her dream and answer her questions immediately. He smoothly tries to change the subject by asking how she's enjoying the airship, but she's not falling for it. With a practiced smile, he apologizes for not greeting her sooner, claiming he was just too busy with work. She's utterly confused. Does he think she's just trying to play with him? Wait, could it possibly be? Oh no! The horrifying truth hits her like a ton of bricks. He can't understand a single word she's saying. Meanwhile, he's just thinking that her needing is a sign of affection and that she clearly has something she wants to say. He debates telling her the truth now that they're on their way to Lilburg, then simply asks if she wants something from him. Elsewhere, two chibi mages guess what a hungry highness might want: pancakes or magic lessons. The little tiger fumes with frustration, unable to believe she's stuck in this communication nightmare for her entire trip. She thinks of her father and brother, already missing them terribly, and remembering her brother's promise to take care of everything.
The boy sighs that not being able to communicate is frustrating, which is the absolute wrong thing to say. She internally explodes, thinking she's the one who's truly frustrated with so many questions she can't even ask. How is she ever supposed to talk to him? As she despairs, a brilliant light suddenly erupts from her body. The boy seems annoyed, grumbling about being called Your Highness again. In a flash of blinding light, the little tiger transforms into a beautiful human girl with long, flowing white hair. She places her hand on his chest, shocked to realize she has human hands again. A wave of pure joy washes over her as she looks at her new form, her heart pounding with excitement. He confirms she looks human, and she squeals with delight, realizing this means they can finally talk. Her joy is short-lived as she realizes she can talk, only to immediately start falling with a poof. She panics midair, screaming internally that she's falling again. Well, that was a fast downgrade. Meanwhile, the red-eyed boy smiles, overjoyed that they've finally found a way to communicate. He effortlessly catches her, but her celebration is cut short as she realizes she's already turned back into a tiger. A quick flashback reveals that because she can't handle Anasha's immense energy, her transformations are unstable and difficult to maintain. He had promised to help her train in Lilburg to master her abilities, a plan she had already decided on herself. Back on the airship, she tentatively tests her new ability, asking if His Majesty can hear her. In a memory, a blushing green-haired boy happily introduces himself as Achiel, telling her to speak comfortably. She remembers her overwhelming gratitude for the translation tool, excited to finally talk to people. Achiel explains the catch. The translator is a one-on-one deal for now, and she's horrified to realize he's the only one who can hear her. He asks if she remembers Archmage Noah Silcuria, and she recalls the man from her father's birthday party. Achiel reveals Noah is a master magic toolmaker who barely succeeded after over 84,000 failures, calling beastkin language impossibly complex. He adds with a hopeful smile that with more research, they might be able to make more translators in the future. When he asks if she's okay with only talking to him for now, she quietly agrees, adding a shy thank you for the Archmage. An awkward silence falls between them on the deck of the airship. She decides this is her only chance and prepares to ask the question that's been bothering her. She gets his attention, calling out his name. Hey, Achiel. She finally confronts him, asking if the reason he's been acting strange is because they'd already met in a dream. Looking him dead in the eye, she demands he stop pretending and just tell her the truth. He finally drops the act with a small smile, admitting she's right and that he is the person from her dream. Achiel then explained his tragic backstory, but insisted their meeting in the dream world must remain their secret. Noticing her pale expression, he worries that his story was too much for her to handle. She's overcome with guilt, blaming herself for not being strong enough to save his family. Feeling responsible for his pain, she rubs against him, reminding herself that despite his genius, he's still just a child carrying a heavy burden. He's taken aback as she tells him firmly not to shoulder everything by himself. She makes a solemn vow to get stronger and personally erase the dark divine beast from existence. Elsewhere, a mustached nobleman gives a sinister, knowing smile. Back in the Pentarine Empire, a dark voice proclaims that the world will soon belong to their master. Her brother, Isatun, holds a follower at sword point, screaming for them to bring Anash to their master. With a final bloody slash, the follower dies, pledging eternal life to the Great One.
Isatun turns away from the body, grimly admitting to himself that his father was right. Wiping blood from his lip, he realizes the Empire is no longer a safe place for his sister, Juicy. His companion notes the followers are getting bolder, and they agree to move on to the next location to continue their hunt. Isatun vows to eliminate the threat quickly and bring his sister back home safely.
In another part of the woods, a group of figures watches, with one voice sneering about a nasty brown tiger. The red-haired woman, Dawari Hill, complains that Isatun has nothing in common with their precious darling. She gushes about how cute and delicious their darling is, earning a sharp rebuke from her scarred companion, Lake Elf. Lake reminds her that the white tiger, Anash, belongs to their master and their master alone. Their conversation is interrupted by an ominous presence as their lord appears, having just finished his meal. A man with long silver hair emerges from the darkness, announcing his body is nearly restored and it's time to make his move. In the southern city of Kylo, the master watches as his followers, Dawari and Lake, tend to a dark magical ritual. Dawari observes that the meals made from young beast humans have been accelerating their lord's recovery. Their master warns them to be careful, telling them to mix the ingredients moderately lest they step on a tail. He reflects with frustration that even with his body mostly recovered, he still can't access the full power of the divine beast he's supposed to control. He bitterly blames those lowly creatures, her family and allies, for his current weakness. Clenching his fist, he accepts that rebuilding his body will take longer now, but it doesn't matter. He vows that once he reclaims his lost power, he will seize the entire world in the palm of his hand. For now, he decides with a confident smirk, he'll let Anash go free. As he departs with his followers, he declares that their next meeting will usher in the world's destruction. As blood drips from a clenched hand, a dark thought emerges. It's time to build a nest. 2 weeks later, their journey ends as the airship finally arrives in the new empire of Rilberk. Thanks to Ikiol's translations, she's no longer afraid of studying abroad and is actually excited as he asks if she's ready to enter the new city. Her tiny paw takes its first step into the new land as she wonders what this place is. The scene transitions through a field of beautiful, sun-drenched white flowers. Her jaw drops as she takes in the breathtaking capital city of Berk in the Rilberk Empire. With sparkling eyes, she's completely captivated by the towering buildings and the vibrant, new atmosphere. Ikio proudly asks for her opinion, but she quickly snaps back to reality, reminding herself to maintain her royal dignity. A man dismisses the city as unimpressive, while Ikiol promises to give a more detailed tour later. A young, red-eyed boy with black hair arrives, respectfully greeting a man named Duke Zetar. The little tiger perks up, recognizing the name Zetar. But she's stunned to see the handsome, silver-haired Duke. There's no way this guy is in his late 50s. She asks Ikiel if humans age differently here, prompting a quick trivia lesson. Beast humans' aging slows down in their human form. Ikiel explains that the Duke used magic potions to stop his aging entirely, leaving her flabbergasted that such a thing is even possible. Ahem. Duke Zetar clears his throat, mentioning he heard the princess from Penterin would be joining them. He gives a little wink, saying he's prepared everything for her stay, and she assumes he's greeting her. He gently pats her head, and she's surprised by his gentle touch.
The Duke assumes she's just a scared little white tiger, but she's furious he's mistaking her for a common animal and not letting it slide.
Bristling with indignation, she thinks his mistake is completely unacceptable. She leaps onto his face, giving the Duke the shock of his life as he sputters in confusion. A woman with braided hair steps forward, scolding the regent for his ignorance about beast humans. As the Duke fumbles for an excuse, the woman grills him on his so-called diplomatic preparations. Suddenly, it clicks. The Duke freezes as the horrifying realization dawns on him. "Your Highness?" He gasps in disbelief. She smugly confirms it's her. She thinks to herself that if Aunt Sophie wasn't here, she'd have given him a piece of her mind. The Duke immediately bows, offering a sincere and profound apology for his ignorant behavior. He's willing to accept any punishment, and seeing his genuine remorse, her anger begins to fade. She approaches him, and her attendant announces that Her Highness has officially accepted the regent's apology. She happily pats his shoe, and he thanks her with overwhelming relief. While her attendants praise her kind heart, she silently tells them that's quite enough praise for one day. And just like that, word of their dramatic arrival spreads like wildfire across the entire Rilberk Empire. The locals are abuzz with curiosity, marveling at the first beast human they've seen and the advanced magic engineering of their capital. Her new attendants explain that the regent personally designed a playground for her, all while onlookers whisper about seeing a beast human in person. Most people keep their distance, still wary and unused to a visitor from the Penteran Empire. Her attendant sighs, noting it's been 1,000 years since their people last had contact, so the apprehension is understandable. The black-haired attendant smiles, reflecting that after all the suffocating attention back home, this quiet indifference is a refreshing change of pace. In fact, she loves that no one is crowding her, unaware that a small, silver-haired boy is watching them from behind a pillar. The boy, Claude, glares resentfully, thinking that the regent is the reason his own uncle has to work so late. Later that night, the regent tells Claude they won't be seeing his uncle today either. His mother explains that his uncle is busy with the guests from Penteran, but Claude is lost in frustrated thought. He fumes silently, blaming the new arrivals for his uncle's constant late nights at work. He flashes back to the regent kneeling, enraged that his uncle was publicly humiliated, and vows not to let it go. Claude Continel, of the prestigious magical family, swears he will make them all pay for this insult. Back at her new residence, the magnificent Stella Palace, she settles into the quarters Ekiel assigned her. Her attendant appears, carrying boxes and voicing concern.
The palace is full of fascinating magical tools, but there's just one tiny problem.
Zap! Her access pass shocks her, acting like a magical leash and keeping her from exploring freely. In a flashback, she remembers eagerly asking Ekiel if her translation tool would let her go anywhere she wanted. Ekiel had to break it to her gently. Her access is limited by the rank of her pass. He explains that a powerful barrier protects restricted areas, and warns her to be careful not to trigger the alarm. Looks like she's grounded, magical style. After confirming Juice can't leave the palace, Sophie gives her free rein to explore inside. She grumbles about her restricted access, jealous that Sophie, Uni, and even Javiet have high-level green passes. Recalling Ekiel's words, she knows if she can prove herself in their weekly sparring, he'll upgrade her pass. Fired up, she vows to win tomorrow's training session when a voice suddenly calls out to her. A silver-haired boy introduces himself as Claude Continel
nephew of the great Duke Zetar, and asks what she wants. He points a tiny, accusing finger right at her and declares, "I challenge you to a duel." He accuses her of tarnishing his uncle's honor, leaving her completely baffled as to what he's talking about. As he demands she follow him to the training grounds, she dismisses him, thinking she's too busy for kids' games. Furious at being ignored, he calls her a wicked cat, but she's already focused on preparing for her test with Ekiel. Claude seethes with frustration, his body suddenly crackling with purple magical energy. A powerful spell immobilizes her, and she's shocked to find she can't move an inch. She thrashes against the magical bonds, desperately growling for him to let her go. It finally clicks. She stops struggling and stares back at the boy, realizing he's a mage. He smirks, telling her to release her spell if she wants a duel, completely misreading the situation. Juice can feel her anger building. This kid really doesn't know who he's messing with. All right, game on. She accepts his challenge, and he smugly asks if she's finally done running. He leads the way, telling her to follow him to the training ground. With a menacing grin, Claude draws a sword pulsing with dark energy, vowing to flatten that nose of hers. She squares up, facing the boy and his magically charged blade. She gathers her own icy power, admitting to herself that while he's no Ekiel, he's still a decent opponent. He lunges forward with a battle cry, swinging his electrified sword. She unleashes a ferocious roar, meeting his attack with a blast of her own. Her paw hits the ground, sending a wave of chilling ice and snow across the battlefield. Oh, that's new! She's stunned by her own power surge and frantically tries to pull back. Claude gets blasted backward by the overwhelming force of her magic. He slams into a stone pillar, cracking it as he crumples to the ground in pain. He scoffs, thinking a beastkin's power like this could never defeat him. But as a shadow falls over him, he looks up in confusion at the crumbling pillar above. Total panic! She realizes the pillar is about to crush him and screams for him to dodge. He's frozen in shock as the debris rains down, letting out a final grunt of pain. Just in the nick of time, a figure shields him as a soft voice asks if he's okay. He looks up to see a beautiful silver-haired girl smiling down at him, leaving him speechless. The entire palace staff comes running in a panic, and the boy realizes this girl is the cat from before. She gently reassures him that he can relax now. With a flash, she transforms into a small, fluffy creature and falls into his arms before passing out in her tiger form. Drifting in darkness, she hears a familiar voice cry out for the white tiger and wonders if it's Ekiel. The last thing she sees is Ekiel's deeply concerned face. She wakes up in her room, surrounded by a worried crowd, and tries to assure everyone she's fine. Annoyed but unharmed, she sits up in bed. She silently gives thanks to the protective pendant her father gave her. Her first question for Ekiel is whether Claude, the boy she fought, is all right. Duke Zetar explains that Claude is under house arrest and apologizes for the trouble he caused. Ekiel notes that house arrest is a light punishment for endangering a foreign princess. She looks at him coolly and declares that since she was the one who was hurt, she will decide the boy's punishment.
The next day, Ekiel explains he's upgraded her artifact with defensive and healing magic. He holds her close, adding that it's just a precaution in case she gets into trouble again. She eagerly asks about their spar, but Ekiel gently postpones it until she's fully recovered. Ekiel lets out a sigh of relief, happy that she's okay. He then asks her seriously if she's truly satisfied with the punishment set for Claude. When he suggests it might be too lenient, she cheerfully insists that it's more than enough. A wicked glint appears in her eye as she thinks to herself that she's going to make very good use of him.
After the chaotic duel with Claude, the day for her training with Ekiel finally arrives. A green-haired man greets her with a good morning as she waits expectantly. Ekiel arrives with Claude, waving cheerfully and asking if she's been waiting long. But her attention is solely on the silver-haired boy trailing him, Claude. It dawns on her with a hint of disappointment that her opponent today isn't Ekiel, but Claude. The green-haired attendant confirms that the princess chose Claude as her training partner in lieu of punishment. Perfect. She thinks to herself that she won't go easy on him this time, a sentiment echoed by a tiny chibi named Rasha. Thud! Just as she's getting fired up, a sudden noise makes her pause in confusion.
It's Claude, on his knees, tearfully begging her to reconsider and even offering to become her slave.
The bizarre scene plays out in chibi form, with Claude prostrating himself before a baffled little tiger. The attendant picks up the flailing boy, but Claude just wails, asking if she's really accepting him as her slave. She looks at the deflated boy, realizing he's been suffering from guilt ever since she got hurt in their last fight. Deciding to take the high road, she thinks the mature thing to do is approach him first. She calls his name to get his attention, and he looks up with a tear rolling down his cheek. With a determined look, she makes him an offer. "Let's be friends." She beams at him with a wide, friendly smile, hoping he'll accept. She then lays out her terms. As her friend, he'll help with her training, leaving Claude utterly stunned by the proposition. Rasha also looks a bit confused. Claude blushes, overjoyed by the offer, when a stern voice suddenly calls his full name. An older, silver-haired man with a monocle glares at them, looking thoroughly displeased. He grabs Claude, reminding him that even though his confinement is lifted, he still has a letter of repentance to write. The man insists it's a summons from His Majesty, not a punishment, and drags the boy away while warning him he's still under watch. Ekiel suggests that since sparring with Claude is off the table, they should proceed with their originally planned training. In the training yard, Ekiel asks if Juicy is ready, and she eagerly confirms she is. She eyes his earrings and bracelets, asking why he's wearing accessories that might get in the way. Ekiel smirks, revealing they're not accessories, but magic suppression devices to weaken him so she won't get hurt. What? She's insulted, yelling that he's looking down on beast folk and vowing not to hold back. He calmly invites her to attack first, promising to counter. Fired up, she's ready to make him regret underestimating her. Her tiny paws crackle with immense blue energy as she prepares her assault. She dashes across the field, knowing her opponent is Ekiel, the Emperor of Rilberg, and she's going all out. Ekiel summons his own blue flames, casually remarking that her power is always amazing to see. His praise makes her blush, smugly thinking this performance might just earn her that Access Pass upgrade.
But in a flash, he's gone, leaving her wondering if he just disappeared. She can't believe it. He's using teleportation. She's stunned he can use such a rare beast folk technique, especially with his powers restricted, realizing he's even stronger than she thought.
But she's not giving up yet, unleashing a massive wave of blue fire across the training ground. "How about this?" she yells, demanding he show himself. Whoosh! He appears right behind her, completely unfazed. He compliments her strategy, but as golden energy crackles in his hand, he implies it's not good enough. A brilliant golden magic circle erupts from the ground, trapping her instantly as Ekiel declares his victory. She watches in horror as her powerful blue flames and blizzard are completely nullified. Oof, total KO. A system message confirms her ultimate skill was ineffective, leaving her utterly defeated. Sitting beside her, Ekiel gently calls out to the dejected white tiger cub. "Kya!" He cheerfully announces that based on her performance, he can't raise her access pass rank, sending her into a comical rage. She protests, swarming him with adorable clones, but he points out she never even landed a hit, an instant disqualification. He then adds that her human form is still imperfect, making her wonder what that has to do with anything. Ekiel explains that her inability to maintain human form proves she can't fully contain her own power yet. He promises to raise her rank once she masters her transformation, leaving her frustrated but admitting he has a point. He encourages her with a gentle pat, promising to help her with physical training until she gets the hang of it. Before they begin, he says there's something he wants to ask her. "What is it?" she chirps back. In a chibi thought bubble, a confused Ekiel wonders why she chose Claude, asking, "Because he looked about the same age?" Ekiel blushes slightly, asking her seriously, "What am I to you?" After a moment of thought, she decides he's a partner, a very precious one at that. She beams with a wide, happy grin, looking absolutely delighted with her own answer. She explains it's because he's the only one she can comfortably talk to about the god-beast of darkness. Visibly touched, Ekiel smiles and thanks her for her kind words. But her warm moment is cut short as a sudden realization hits her, leaving her speechless. What? The first day's training is 50 laps, and she's already begging her inner self for a way out.